Hello, hello, hello. I thought that I would come on at a pretty much unconventional time to talk about something that has come up a couple of times in the last week, and it is purely about how your open door policy is killing your calendar. What I don't want you to think is this is a live where I'm talking about people being annoying and how you can protect yourself from them, because that's not what this is. I know that open door policies come from a good place. I know we want people to feel safe and like they can come to us, but I think what's happening is people are thinking about being accessible to mean the same thing as always being interrupted. And so the problem, as I am seeing it, is that the urgent is getting in the way of important stuff that people need to get done. And I know that the average you got a minute when somebody's like stopping by your office rarely takes a minute. In fact, I think yesterday someone estimated that it took about 90 minutes, but from my time in corporate, it was about 45 minutes to an hour when somebody drops by and says, "Hey, you got a minute." And I have a strategy that I use now that is like 18 minutes after the hour right now. And let's say somebody on my team wants to talk with me. I'd say something like, I have about 12 minutes, does now work? Because if not, I would try to schedule that time instead of just haphazardly moving my schedule. Because empty space on the calendar does not always equal free. You should be thinking and planning and preparing and following up, because that is the work of a leader. And if everybody could interrupt you at any time, when do you have time to actually lead? And this is how it shows up. Somebody says, "Hey, can I talk to you real quick?" Or people are dropping by for routine questions, or quickly sending you a message on Teams or Slacks, and people are expecting like immediate response. And this is not necessarily bad, but employees are bringing issues and situations the moment they occur. And what happens is the leader becomes the kind of the answer machine and spends their day reacting instead of responding. And important work gets pushed to the side, and we may accidentally train people to depend on us for answers when they actually have the answers. My favorite executive coach is Alan Fine, and he always said that you actually train people to come to you for answers that they already have the answers to. They're not necessarily coming to you because they don't know what to do. People know what to do, they're just not doing what they know. And so if I always immediately solve a problem, why would people learn to solve their own problems? Why would they ever focus on their own development? And so the empathy check, I think, here is that knowing that, first of all, boundaries are not rejection. Just because you have some boundaries around your time doesn't mean that you're rejecting your people. And structure is not necessarily unkind or bad or some off kilter thing that we need to make sure that we're not doing, that we need to just be loosey goosey. And I think people feeling like they can come to you does not mean unlimited availability, that you can have me whenever you want. Those are not the same thing. People deserve access to their leader for sure, but they also deserve a leader who has enough capacity to actually be present when they are meeting with them. And so here's the solution. I'm using this time to just give you a quick little here's what you can do to have these kind of conversations at home where you work. There are three types of meetings. One is the stand up. I think you do those stand ups every single day. You do them really quick. The reason they're called stand up is that in manufacturing plants, if you are standing up, that keeps the meeting short. So, what you cover in a stand up meeting, which is always less than 15 minutes, it's always the entire team. It is like, what does the team need to know today? It's quick. It's about alignment. It is not about problem solving. That is not what we do there. We are just making sure that we know who's missing, that everyone has their who, what, when, where, why, that if there's something important we need to know for the day, it is covered. Now, the one on one, which I think is critically important. If you have 10 people or less, you should be meeting with your people once a week, 20 to 30 minutes. It should be formalized. The purpose of the one on one is to check in, to give feedback, to provide development where possible, to figure out what obstacles people are having so you can help them get over it. I think it's also important to use the one-on-one for celebration, because if you do not talk to people in formal ways, what tends to happen is you are only talking to them when there's a problem. And so if somebody has a situation that comes up during the week and it is not standard one-on-one time, what I think that they should be thinking or what we should train people to think is this something that can happen that we can talk about at the one-on-one? How do you know that? If I don't bring it to you today, is something going to fall through the cracks and cause a major issue? Or can it wait for our structured time to talk? Emergencies, there's a woman named Susan Scott. She wrote a book called Fierce Conversations. And in Fierce Conversations, she talks about this concept of a tree. And there's leaf decisions, branch decisions, trunk decisions, and root decisions. Leaf and branch decisions, other people can make those without really checking in because the tree is going to be fine if something goes wrong with a leaf or a branch decision. But trunk and root decisions are things that you do actually need to collaborate or need a higher level decision maker's input on. And if it's a trunk or a root decision that needs to be made today, of course, come on by. But if it's a leaf or a branch decision, you probably can make the decision yourself, or it can wait till our one-on-one. And what leaders have to be trained to understand is that save it for our one-on-one does not mean I don't care about you. It means I have dedicated, protected time for you where I can focus on you and be present. And, a drop by does absolutely mean it cannot wait. So that means it must be a real emergency. It needs to be a trunk or root issue, and waiting will create some type of consequence. So the new question that I think that people should be training other people to ask and be thinking about before interrupting anyone on the team is, where does this conversation belong? Ask, can it wait for my one-on-one? Or can it go to the stand-up because everybody on the team needs to know about it? Will something meaningful go wrong if we wait? And if yes, go get your manager. But if not, then it waits. And this is a big leadership shift that has to happen. We have to stop rewarding every problem with immediate leader attention. Because I just observed a senior level leader yesterday. Someone came in and it sounded like they had an issue, a challenge, or a complaint. But I guarantee you that woman knew exactly what to do. And what did that senior level leader do? What was very predictable. She started answering the question, advising, problem solving together. And what we have to do as leaders is coach people toward greater independence. One of the reasons why we get burnt out is because we feel like we are the ones who have to jump in and save everyone. And first of all, you don't have the capacity to do that. Secondly, the people who are closest to the issue usually are the most informed. They know what to do. And so leaders have to protect their time, for the important but not urgent leadership work. The stuff that you always say that you don't have time for, like coaching and development, like creating succession plans, like looking out 3 to 5 years in terms of like what's changing in the industry. If the urgent is getting in the way of the important, you have to start getting to the point where you understand that the goal isn't less access. It really is more intentional access, and formalized one-on-ones are necessary in that regard. And leaders have to know that your open door should communicate psychological safety, but not unlimited availability. Like if you don't want to have unlimited access to like in general, you do not want to have unlimited access to a distracted version of me. Like think about your own life. Do you want to be talking with someone when they are not available to pay attention? You want dedicated time. And so I want you to have predictable access to me. And I want that to be a present version of me, because if I'm not present, there's no way I can be empathetic. We are not great multitaskers. And so we have got to stop this thinking about the open door policy for everything. So what I want you to do is ask yourself this week, what am I treating as urgent that actually just needs a home? Meaning it can live in the 15-minute, 10-minute quick team check-in in the morning, which I call stand-up meetings, or it can live in the weekly one-on-ones. And if you have more than 10 people, look, let's say you got 20 people, then you should be meeting with those people every 2 weeks in a standard way. And again, celebration is a strategy, especially if you are doing really heavy work where you are finding something to celebrate. Because I'm telling you what, if you tell people you work in certain industries, almost always people are going to say, oh my gosh, thank you for doing the Lord's work kind of thing. And I can guarantee you that if that's the kind of industry you're working in, you are probably struggling sometimes to make sure that you're not talking to two people only when things are wrong. So this is like my little quick heavy hitter. I try to do these whenever I have time for them, share them with the leader that you know who is getting a lot out of. I go to work every day and I don't have any plan for how my day works. What I'm doing for sure um, is just allowing how other people need me to dictate what my day would be like. And that is not good leadership, and it is likely burning you out. So if you want to know more about this, I'm doing a leadership training on September 1st. You can go to livelyparadox.com forward slash events and sign up, or send anybody else you know who needs to sign up. That particular session is about how to get people on board when they are resistant. But I don't know, I think I was slightly shocked that people are not having their one-on-ones and don't know how to use the one-on-one. So share this information. If you have more questions about this, you can always schedule time for me with me to talk about it. But wanted to give this basic little tip to you, how to use the stand up time, and also how to use the one-on-one. Take care, y'all. Bye.